At some point, something changed. What used to feel good doesn't feel the same anymore. That thing you used to enjoy, scrolling, watching, eating, repeating, it's still there. You still do it. But the feeling is different now. There's no excitement, no real satisfaction, no sense of reward, just repetition. And if you're honest with yourself, you've noticed it. That strange moment when you stop and think, why am I even doing this? But instead of stopping, you continue, almost automatically. That's the part that doesn't make sense. Because normally, humans avoid things they don't enjoy. Pain is avoided. Discomfort is avoided. Boredom is avoided. So why do you keep going back to something that doesn't even feel good anymore? Why do you repeat behaviors that no longer give you the reward they once did? The answer is uncomfortable because it means you're not doing it for pleasure anymore. You're doing it because your brain needs it. There's a difference between liking something and being attached to it. And most people confuse the two. They think, if I keep doing this, I must enjoy it. But that's not always true. Because addiction doesn't require enjoyment. It only requires repetition. And over time, that repetition rewires you. What started as curiosity becomes habit. What started as habit becomes dependency. And what becomes dependency no longer needs to feel good. It only needs to feel necessary. That's why you keep checking your phone, even when nothing interesting is there. That's why you keep consuming content, even when it feels empty. That's why you keep returning to patterns that no longer satisfy you, because your brain has learned something deeper than pleasure. It has learned expectation. It expects the behavior. It expects the cycle. And when that expectation isn't fulfilled, it creates discomfort. Not because you're missing something meaningful, but because you're breaking a pattern, and your brain doesn't like that. So it pulls you back, not toward joy, but toward familiarity. And the more you follow it, the less you question it. Until one day, you're no longer asking, why am I doing this? You're just doing it. Without thinking, without feeling, without choosing. And that's when it becomes dangerous. Because now, you're not chasing something you enjoy. You're maintaining something your brain depends on. The loss of feeling at the beginning. Everything feels intense, new habits, new stimuli, new experiences. They hit harder, feel stronger, capture your attention completely. That's because your brain hasn't adapted yet. It hasn't built tolerance. So the first few times, it feels different, more exciting, more engaging, more rewarding. But your brain is always adjusting, always adapting, always trying to find balance. And that means one thing. What once felt strong will eventually feel normal. This is called tolerance, and it changes everything because now the same behavior doesn't give you the same effect. The same content doesn't feel as interesting. The same habit doesn't feel as satisfying. So what do? You increase it. More time, more intensity, more frequency. You don't even realize you're doing it. It feels natural, but it's not. It's compensation. Your brain is trying to recreate a feeling that no longer exists. And the more you chase it, the further away it gets. Because the system isn't designed to keep you satisfied. It's designed to keep you engaged. And there's a big difference between those two things. Satisfaction ends the cycle. Engagement continues it. And your brain prefers continuation. So instead of feeling fulfilled, you feel stuck. Instead of feeling satisfied, you feel numb. And that numbness is subtle. It doesn't feel like pain. It feels like absence, like something is missing. But you can't quite explain what. So you go back to the same behavior, hoping it will feel like it used to, but it doesn't. It just repeats. And over time, that repetition dulls everything else. Simple things stop feeling interesting. Real life feels slower, less stimulating, less engaging, because your brain has been conditioned to expect more, faster, stronger, constant. And reality doesn't compete with that, so you return to what does, even if it doesn't satisfy you anymore, because at least it's familiar. At least it's consistent. At least it fills the space, even if it leaves you empty. Your brain needs the loop. Your brain doesn't just remember behaviors, it builds loops. And once a loop is established, it doesn't need motivation. It runs automatically. Every loop follows the same structure: trigger, action, reward. At first, the reward is real. You feel something: satisfaction, relief, excitement. But over time, the reward becomes weaker, and something else takes over: the loop itself. Your brain stops focusing on the outcome and starts depending on the process, the repetition, the cycle. That's why you can go through the same action without expecting anything from it. You open the app, even though you know nothing is there. You repeat the habit, even though you know it won't feel good, because the loop is no longer about reward. It's about completion. Your brain wants to finish what it started, to close the cycle. And when you interrupt that cycle, it creates tension, a subtle discomfort, a feeling that something is unfinished. So you return, not because you want to, but because your brain wants closure. And every time you complete the loop, you reinforce it, make it stronger, more automatic, more difficult to break, until eventually it becomes part of your routine, something you don't question, something you don't analyze, something you just do. And that's where people get stuck, not because they enjoy what they're doing, but because their brain expects it. And breaking that expectation feels harder than continuing the behavior, even when the behavior no longer serves you, even when it drains you, even when it keeps you in the same place. Because your brain isn't asking, "Does this help me?" It's asking, "Is this familiar?" And if the answer is yes, it keeps going. Why you can't stop? Most people think stopping is simple. They think, if I don't like this, I should just stop. But stopping isn't just about decision. It's about interruption. And interruption creates resistance. Because your brain doesn't like broken patterns. When you try to stop, you're not just removing a behavior, you're disrupting a system. And that system reacts. It creates urges, thoughts, justifications. It tries to pull you back. Not because it's logical, but because it's conditioned. It will tell you just one more time. It's not a big deal. You can stop later. And those thoughts feel real. They feel like your own reasoning, but they're not. They're part of the loop trying to survive. And the more you listen, the harder it becomes to stop, because now you're not just repeating the behavior, you're reinforcing the belief that you need it. And once that belief is strong enough, it becomes identity. You don't just say, "I do this sometimes." You start to feel, "This is who I am." And that's where it gets dangerous, because now stopping doesn't just feel difficult, it feels like losing something, even if that something is harming you, even if that something is empty. Because your brain has linked it to stability, to routine, to normality, and breaking it feels like breaking yourself. So you don't. You continue. Not because you want to, but because stopping feels worse. You were conditioned for this. You weren't born like this. You didn't choose these patterns consciously. They were built over time, through repetition, through exposure, through environment. Every habit you have started somewhere, a moment, a trigger, a situation that created a connection. And once that connection was formed, your brain held onto it, strengthened it, repeated it, until it became automatic. That's how conditioning works. Not through force, but through repetition. And the modern world is built to take advantage of that. Everything around you is designed to capture your attention, to keep you engaged, to keep you repeating. Apps, content, notifications, they're not random, they're engineered to activate the same systems in your brain over and over again. And the more you interact with them, the more they shape your behavior, your expectations, your habits, until eventually they feel natural, but they're not. They're constructed. And once you understand that, you start to see something clearly. You were trained to behave this way, not intentionally, but effectively. And the longer you stay in that system, the deeper it becomes, until it feels like it's part of you. So now you understand something most people never question. You don't always do things because you enjoy them. You do them because your brain expects them, because you've repeated them, because they've become patterns, and once something becomes a pattern, it doesn't need your permission anymore. It runs on its own, quietly, automatically, and the more you follow it, the stronger it becomes. Until one day you look at your behavior and realize something unsettling. You're not choosing as much as you think. You're repeating, maintaining, continuing loops that were built over time. And the most dangerous part is this: it feels normal. It feels like you, but it's not. It's conditioning. And if you never question it, it will continue, unnoticed, unchallenged, unchanged. So the real question isn't, why do I do this? The real question is, what would I do if I broke the pattern? Because that's where control begins, not in forcing yourself, not in fighting your brain, but in recognizing what is actually happening. And once you see it clearly, you have a choice, not an easy one, but a real one. Continue the loop or step outside of it.